guys, we're back, and today we're going to go ahead. We are back at it again. CompTIA A plus certification exam core 1 objectives. We're going to go ahead and focus on 1.3 today. The previous video was 1.2. I want to get through this information. I know sometimes it's I kind of slow down and I try to explain things very thoroughly. That's what I try to do. But I know that for we want to get as much information as we can. I do want to make these videos a little shorter, so to speak. I think 10 minutes is probably around the perfect spot, at least for our goal and whatnot. But nonetheless, the previous video was 1.2. Today, we're going to focus on 1.3. Given a scenario, setup and configure accessories and ports of mobile devices. We're going to talk about connection methods. We're going to talk about accessories. We'll talk about some docking stations, port replicators, trackpads/drawing pads, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and get into our presentation here with our slideshow. And once again, we are focusing on 1.3, given a scenario, set up and configure accessory and ports of mobile devices. Okay, guys, before I even begin this, there's a couple ideas that I want to say that aren't necessarily on the core objectives, but it's something that should be in the back of your head. It should almost be as a given. Okay, it's something that you should already know, but nobody knows. Or nobody talks about it, so to speak. Okay. Long story short, input, processing, output. Input, processing, output. That is basically how technologies work. That is a very extremely crude simplification, but you need to know which devices are input and you need to know which devices are output. Okay, if you know how things work, the troubleshooting becomes a lot easier. Okay, and the second thing I wanted to bring up was the idea of, at the end of the day, you're connecting one device to another device. How you do that, whether it be through a cable, okay, or whether it be wirelessly, you are connecting one device to another device. That is how basically our world of IT works. We're connecting devices day in, day out with input, processing, and outputs. Okay, so let's get into that. I'm gonna have these questions here. This is something for you to think about. We should be able to answer all of these questions by the end of this video. Some of you might be able to answer them now. You get a call and the person on the end says, my USB cable doesn't fit. Okay, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What's the first thing that comes to mind? How can you potentially help this individual? Next question, which USB cable allows for video output? Okay, next question would be, you have an older camera, but which USB is most likely to fit? Okay, so you need a USB for an older camera. Okay, the internal NIC card is not working on the laptop. What is a USB workaround? Okay, guys, so keep those questions in mind. Some of you guys can already answer these. So if you don't know how to answer these, I would highly recommend you watch the entire video. That way you can go ahead and feel confident and know exactly what you're talking about. So the next thing is USBs. So USB stands for Universal Serial Bus. Okay, guys. And at the end of the day, guys, USB is connecting one device to another device. Now, the whole idea of, hey, why do they have so many USBs? It's because as technology advances and progresses, the ability to go ahead and transfer more data, okay, and or have another design and or have a standard USB where the whole world comes together and says, hey, let's use this particular design so we don't have to focus on manufacturing 50 billion of these. Okay, let's all get on the same page. Okay, so you have a lot of that going on in the background as well. But just realize that as technology advances, the ability for data to transfer more with regards to electrical impulses and whatnot, it kind of births the need for a USB. Okay, so you have USB Type C. If you have a newer Android phone nowadays, you already know what you're talking about, or you already see this. This is USB Type C. You have your USB Type A. Okay, that this thing has been around for a while. At least the same actual design of it, anyways. You have your USB Mini B, and you have your Micro B. Okay, the way I like to think of it is micro is smaller than mini, and micro is something that is lower on the totem pole when it comes to technology. Older technology is lower on the totem pole. So micro B, that would probably be a USB that you would use for older cameras, older technology. Okay, mini B, that would be something that I mean, if you get a cell phone from like 5 years ago, more than likely you would have something along those lines. Um, so on and so forth. Nowadays, we're definitely using USB Type C. When it comes to video, out of all of these, the one that supports video is USB Type C. Let's go on to the next thing. So we are talking about mobile devices. One of the biggest mobile devices you'll ever see, at least nowadays at this point in time, is cellular phones. When it comes to cellular phones, you're basically dealing with two conglomerates. You're either dealing with Android or you're dealing with Apple. Apple has their own wire, so to speak. They have their own hardware, they have their own cable. It technically does the same functionality, it's just designed differently, and it looks different because it's designed different, but it's the same idea. You're still connecting one device to another device. And as you guys can see here, this is an adapter, guys. Notice with USB you can start plugging in adapters, so on and so forth. Okay, so this right here would be an adapter, and as you guys can see, it's not really clear, but this is an HDMI port. So you can plug this into your phone, get an HDMI cable, plug it into a monitor, plug it into a TV, and you can go ahead and get video output to the screen in that particular fashion. Okay, let's go. So just remember, Apple Lightning cable. If you're using an Apple Lightning cable on an Android phone, I highly don't recommend it. It's not going to work. So this whole idea of serial interfaces, this, guys, okay, this right here used to literally be the same idea as a USB. Okay, it's literally same idea, slightly different technology. You're transferring information, data, electrical impulses from one device to another device. But at that point in time, with what they had and what they were working with, this is what they designed. This is what they decided to engineer and come up with. Okay, so there's a whole alphabet soup, but if you guys can get the whole idea of like, hey, you have literally a physical wire that's connecting one device to the other device. Let's just make sure that this wire is tailored for the specific device, so on and so forth. But this is basically a serial interface. Okay, you have the parallel here, you have the serial. And let's just keep it moving. Go on to the next thing here. And that brings us to word of the day. This is something that I like to do in every presentation, and ever since I came up with it, I've been adding it to all our presentations. We want to definitely go ahead and increase our IT vocabulary, guys. And that word of the day for today is interface. So interface and CompTIA A plus. I got some help from Gemini AI. Okay, so in the context of CompTIA A plus, an interface primarily refers to a physical connection between devices. It's where data is transferred from one component to another. I'm going to put that in my own words. So basically, an interface is where you literally have a mesh. Okay, you have a mesh between one device and another device. Okay, it's almost like a technological uh, glue, so to speak. Okay, I don't know if that's the correct way to look at it, but it's connecting one device to another device. Okay, so the interface. Okay, I'll give you guys some examples. We talked a lot about these already: USB, HDMI, Ethernet, VGA. Okay, expansion slots is considered another form of an interface. You have different connectors. If you guys remember the old school mouses, okay, that didn't use any USB, but actually had some pins associated with it. I believe those were actually they had some pins associated with it. But basically an interface is just another word for saying connection. Okay, what connection are you using? What interface are you using? Oh, what connection are you using? Oh, I'm using USB. Oh, okay. Well, guess what? I just learned that there's four types of USBs, probably more, but there's four types of USBs that I know of. USB-C, you have micro B, you have mini B, and you have your USB type A, right? Interface connection. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep it moving. I got a few more questions. Which technology allows you to make payments with your phone near the payment terminal? And name three wireless technologies. Before we get into this, guys, technology loves to advance because people like to advance and people love conveniency. Okay, so instead of having a physical cable, now we're getting technology, or we've had technology, where you can go ahead and have one device and another device connect wirelessly. So now the potential of using a USB cable is not as uh, in demand, so to speak. You would still need a USB cable for certain things or other types of cables and whatnot. But let's go ahead and just think about it from that perspective. Whether you're using these wireless technologies, you are still going ahead and connecting one device to another device. Okay. The wireless technologies that we're going to go ahead and focus on for today: NFC, Bluetooth, hotspot. I put hotspot because hotspot was technically there on the course objectives, but the first thing that comes to mind when even if you're not even a tech person, hotspot, you're thinking Wi-Fi. So NFC, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and the difference between these technologies, guys, is literally the range at which it can communicate and the amount of data that it can input and output. Okay, so that's literally the only thing that you really need to know when it comes to wireless technologies. You have three: NFC, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Okay, NFC, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Okay, and obviously each one of those you can dive in deeper and get into the physics and see exactly how it works. And then for Wi-Fi, we have literally a plethora of like eight Wi-Fi standards and whatnot, if not more by now. But nonetheless, you need to know that, hey, this is a technology that allows one device to communicate with another device. And when it comes to NFC, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi, what is the determining factor is the range at which it can communicate and the amount of data that it can go ahead and transfer. So you're not going to use NFC to go ahead and try to connect uh to the internet when your antenna is 20 feet away, right? Because NFC is limited to a range of 4 centimeters to 1.5 inches. Okay, Bluetooth is limited to 10 meters. Your Wi-Fi is limited to about 30 meters. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, three wireless technologies: NFC, Bluetooth, and hotspot. And technically, these would be considered an interface in my perspective, because the interface, once again, is a form of a connection between two devices. And now the intermediary is the wireless technology: NFC, Bluetooth, hotspot. Let's go on to the next one. Accessories. So accessories, guys, accessories is definitely, it depends on the person. Some people love accessories and they're really kind of and they find those accessories extremely convenient, and that they want all the accessories they can get, and they might need those accessories for them in order to perform the job. Some people are plain vanilla, okay, and they're just like, hey, I just the less the better, so to speak. But just realize that a lot of these accessories can go ahead and provide workarounds. So for example, if your trackpad is not working on your laptop, you can use a workaround and say, hey, use this for now until we can go ahead and get you a solution, or what so on and so forth. Here's a mouse that you can plug in via USB. Okay, so there are workarounds, and one of the questions I did ask was the idea of, hey, your NIC card on your laptop isn't working. What would be a workaround? You can use a USB adapter, okay, and that adapter would be able to have Wi-Fi, and now you're using the USB Wi-Fi as opposed to your own NIC card on your laptop. So that would be an idea of a workaround. Just realize that you have touch pins, headsets, speakers, webcams. The plug and play is a very big common phrase when it comes to IT world, and it means exactly what it says. You plug it in and it works. Okay, you plug it in and you can play with it. Okay, sometimes when those devices don't work, it could technically be that device, and or maybe you need to update the driver. Just remember, physical connections. That could be another phrase for interface. Always check the settings. I believe on 1.3 they wanted you to be able to configure Bluetooth. Guys, I've seen little kids go ahead and configure Bluetooth. It's not that difficult. You go into your phone settings, you look for the Bluetooth icon, you turn it on, you turn your Bluetooth device on, you search for Bluetooth devices, and you go ahead and connect. But just keep that in mind. It's always nice to have spare actual devices, because you can test and see whether, hey, is it a settings thing or is it the actual device, so on and so forth. But a lot of this technology nowadays, they've done a really good job to make it convenient for the end consumer and us technicians, going ahead and having things work as they are intended to work. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing, and we're going to talk about docking stations. Guys, this is really good For somebody who is an avid laptop user, they use their laptop day in, day out. They need their laptop for work. They might go out to the coffee shop, they might go out to the office, they might come back home, and they need something, or they would like something to go ahead and enhance their laptop experience, where they're just like, hey, maybe when I come home, I want to have an extra monitor, or I want to go ahead and I want to use my wireless keyboard and wireless mouse, or things along those natures. Or hey, I got to make sure I charge the laptop. So that's something that a docking station would come into play, and it really just depends on the person. But I just want to highlight with the docking station, this is proprietary. Don't get a docking station for don't get a Lenovo docking station if you have a Dell laptop. Okay, the docking station is proprietary. Get the same brand, get something that's intended, make sure that it's a match, okay? Because the docking station is more robust than what's going to be the next thing we're going to talk about, which is a port replicator. Just realize that the difference between a docking station and a port replicator, docking station is more robust. You have USB, power supply, monitors, various ports, hard drives, and a lot of the things, guys, they do intermingle docking station versus what would be a port replicator. But we as IT professionals should be go ahead, we should be able to go ahead and distinguish the difference. Okay, so docking station, just realize that it's a little bit more robust. It's proprietary. You want to get the same brand that is intended for your laptop. Now, when it comes to the port replicator, and you guys can tell that that's a big difference here, at least on that image, and it does paint that picture. When it comes to a port replicator, that's a little bit more universal. If you have somebody that has 5 USB devices and their laptop only has one USB port, you would want to recommend a port replicator. That way, you can go ahead and have additional USB ports, things of that nature. So as you guys can see, this is a little bit more universal. This is a little bit more proprietary. And I did mention on here, I might have swung past it, hard drives, guys. Hard drives. You can some docking stations do have the capability of having additional hard drive storage, which is extremely lucrative if you have a lot of information, you want to go ahead and back up your data consistently, so on and so forth. And then trackpad versus drawing pad. Okay, guys. So basically, if you have a laptop, I can bet $1 you have what is called a trackpad. That is your trackpad right here. And that is not necessarily meant to replace a mouse, but now you have built-in hardware within the laptop. That way you can go ahead and control the cursor on the screen. Okay, so just realize that's a trackpad, and that would be considered an input device, okay, because you're inputting information. And then you have your drawing pad. That's something that if you're using, if you like to doodle, go ahead and use mathematical equations, or if you like to go ahead and sketch out ideas and you want to do it in a digital form, that's something that would be convenient to go ahead and have, use, and so on and so forth. So we did have a couple questions. Okay, let's answer those really quick. Name 3 wireless technologies. A, B, C, D, E, and so that's going to be NFC, Bluetooth, wireless, Wi-Fi. Okay, Wi-Fi is a wireless technology. So you have NFC, Bluetooth, and you have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC. Okay, which technology allows you to make payments with your phone near the payment terminal? That would be NFC. Remember, NFC limiting factor is that it only works between 4 centimeters to 1.5 inches. So you have to be extremely close to the actual device. So the devices have to be extremely close in order for them to communicate, which would be a good idea. You wouldn't want to use your Wi-Fi to pay a terminal, because now you're propagating your information within 30 meters, which could potentially be not good. Okay, let's go on to the other questions that we had here in the beginning. The internal NIC card is not working on the laptop. What is a USB workaround? I really hinted at this really like right away. Kind of led you through the path, because I said a USB workaround. You can use a USB wireless card. So if you know your NIC card's not working and you need to get something done really right away, or you can't take the laptop to get it fixed right away, or what have you, or they're in the middle of something, you can always use a USB wireless card. That way you can go ahead and connect through to the internet that way. You have an older camera, which USB is most likely to fit. We talked about that already. I gave you my whole spiel about the difference between mini and micro. Micro is smaller than mini, and micro is at the bottom of the scale. So older technology is at the bottom of the scale. Gave you guys that analogy. So more than likely, it could be the mini. Okay, but I would go with micro. Um, which USB cable allows for video output? Hopefully, I mentioned this in the previous spiel of this, but basically USB C and Apple Lightning. Okay, I literally put Apple Lightning right with the HDMI cable, right? So that should have been a big hit right there. Which USB allows for video output? So that would be your USB C, okay, and that would be your Apple Lightning. The next one would be you get a call and the person on the end says, "My USB cable doesn't fit." Okay, what's the first thing that comes to mind, guys? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Okay, what would you ask yourself? The first thing is, hey, did you try turning it? Did you try turning it? Um, 300 and well, I guess it would be 180 degrees, right? Making sure that it's the right one. If that's not it, they're like, "Hey, I've been messing with this, it's not working," right? You want to ask, what device are you using? Okay, what device are you using, and can you describe the cable to me? Okay, so just realizing that different devices have different interfaces and that there's different USB cables, and being able to know, hey, what device are you using and what are you trying to connect? Okay, have you done this before? So on and so forth, and you just go through the line of questioning. Nowadays, you have video on your phone, so you can actually see if they can go ahead and um, have them try to show you um, and whatnot. But the whole gist of that was just to get your critical thinking gears spinning, so to speak. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, what device are you trying to connect? Okay. And have you done this before? Is this your first time? So on and so forth. Okay. And then you can go ahead and go through the line of questioning there. But nonetheless, guys, that does it for us for 1.3, given a scenario, setup and configure accessory and ports of mobile devices. That does it for me, guys. And I'm going to go ahead and head out, and I'll see you guys on the next